heaven's sakes. This is Diane Dane, someone you've never heard of before because she was created by Tom Hanks in his directorial debut, That Thing You Do, a much underrated film. And if you have not seen it yet, you absolutely need to go out there and see it. I showed it to my daughter yesterday, and she loved it. Great soundtrack. It's a basic, easygoing, family-oriented film about a one-hit wonder from Erie, Pennsylvania in the 1960s during the Beatles era. The songs it was written and directed by Tom Hanks, his first movie he ever directed. He co-stars in it right at the height of when he was hugely popular in the 90s. And he also co-wrote, I should say, a number of the songs on the soundtrack, including the original, the one that the movie's about, That Thing You Do. So, excuse me. It's all good. This is Dylan Knows, episode 357, the Netflix Irish Pub. And there's a reason for that because this week's episode is Netflix heavy. There's also an Irish pub sighting in this one as well. Disney World pops up in this as well. Pokemon, of course, Tesla, Stephen King, Snickers, Winona Earp, Paris Hilton has come back into it. Kanye West is in here. Tron 3. What the hell is that? Some deaths, some big deaths, actually. 2 major ones at the beginning of the week, back to back. We're getting a look at some early I saw the turkey thing, the turkey story in here. But we're getting a good look at some early Halloween stuff coming up this week. So this is the first week that I'm actually going to really get into some Halloween stuff since, I'm done with summer and I'm over and done with, and it should go on. G.I. Joe, the Supreme Court, the Justice League, Hamilton, Bubonic Plague, Brie Larson, Bulgarians who paint superheroes, and angry volcano otters are just some of the fun stuff we'll be going over today on Dylan Knows. So here we go. Hey, like my new Baby Yoda shirt. There it is. I haven't had Bing in a while on the show, so here we go. Disney World reopened today, despite the fact that the virus, which I don't think I'm allowed to say, is soaring in Florida, but apparently they don't care because, hey, the economy and all that bullshit. So if you are going to Disney World, there are going to be a whole bunch of new stuff you're going to need to do. So all you idiots who say, oh, I don't need to wear a mask, you got to wear a freaking mask if you want to go to Disney World, or they will kick your ass out. And it's not encroaching on your freedoms, you stupid. All right, I'm done with that. The Irish pub story. This is a brilliant idea, and a friend of mine is like, hey, you know what? That might actually be possible. So during, pandemic and people staying at home, people are expecting certain things to happen. Me, I've been sitting on my ass, feeling sorry for myself, reading lots of books and making sure my kids are getting an education. That's what I've been doing while I've been laid off. Other people who've been in quarantine, they've been working from home or they've been doing other projects. There are people who are trying to make themselves be better, whatever. But this guy, actually, him and his wife actually decided to meld one of their favorite things in the world into something they can do in quarantine because due to quarantine, they were not allowed to go to their favorite Irish pub. So what they decided to do, they brought the Irish pub to them. The guy built, well, with his wife, I should say, I shouldn't say this to the guy, but the guy and his wife, they built an Irish pub, small one, in their backyard. They saw a picture of it inside, has a little bar and a couple of places for people to sit in, probably like 4 chairs you can sit in there. And it has Irish stuff up on the walls. It's got Irish beer that you can get from any brewery, probably. You order it in. Like I have a friend who owns a kegster or kegerator, so he can get kegs anywhere he wants to. So there are places you can order it from. So he's getting his Irish keg stuff. They've got their Irish glasses. They've probably gone to Ireland before. They probably have Irish glasses. They can probably find Irish glasses. And they opened a Irish pub in their backyard. Now, I don't know if it's open for their friends. I suppose it really couldn't be, because you need to have a liquor license and all that stuff. But when it's on your own property, I guess as long as you're not selling it, it really doesn't matter. But if you decide you want to have a pub, you got to go through the proper channels. And I'm not sure, but basically just said that they built this Irish pub in their backyard. And I think that's like the coolest thing in the world. And I wish I was that original, or I had a backyard or an interest in Irish beer, but that's besides the point. Our first Pokemon story today is not about Pokemon Go. That's going to come later in the show. I've been talking to you about, I'm a comic book fan. So, I've been talking about how in the 1990s, speculators almost killed the comic book market by hearing about all these early 60s comics and stuff like that, 40s comics, 30s comics that have been selling for millions of dollars. So these people see these number ones and they're like, oh, wow, it's a number one. It's a Wolverine and it's going to be worth millions of dollars in about 20 years. So I can send my kid to college. So they buy like 20 copies of it and sock it away. And then 20 years later, when they try to sell it, it's like, yeah, this might be like $50, maybe. That's about it. Because there are so many of them out there. The main reason why these comics are selling for millions of dollars is because they're extraordinarily rare to find a well-kept one. There are obviously ones out there that have been very well read and have been trashed and spilled on, because comic books in the old days, 30s and 40s and 50s, was not an investment. It was something you spent a quarter on, 10 cents. Let's see, I remember when they were 25 cents, I think, like a quarter on them. And you read them, and, there might be stuff inside that you would tear off to get like sea monkeys and shit like that. And then you might just, toss them, in the garbage or whatever when you were done. And that was it, or some people did save them, but they didn't have the bags and boards so much. So by the time they had a box of them, they were all yellowed and disgusting. And the moms were like, I'm just going to throw these out. Boom. Or they just said, I don't want them, and did chuck them out there. So that's where but then all of a sudden things started changing and the collector's market bloomed. But then the speculators came and almost ruined it. Same thing is with baseball cards, and in this case, Pokemon cards. Before Pokemon Go and the video games, stuff like that, Pokemon was a trading card game first and foremost. And there was a Charizard card, I think, that sold for a lot of money recently as well. But this one is a another rare Pokemon card that sold for $90,000 at auction. It was a holographic silhouette with stars in the background of Mewtwo. So, again, there are stuff out there that are rare, but you're not going to get the millions of dollars worth of stuff that you're expecting for a lot of things, because there is so many in circulation and so many were made and so many have them that they're not rare. People actually have them. And that's the thing. This card was very rare, so you haven't been able really to find it. So $90,000 to a collector or something like that, display or whatever, is money well worth spending for them. Movies are still getting released here and there. Obviously, a lot of them are going direct to video. We'll talk about some of the Netflix ones coming up in a little bit, but this one drew my attention. I've always been fascinated with Nikola Tesla and his whole story. And apparently, the IFC, Independent Film Company or whatever, made a Tesla movie recently that stars Ethan Hawke, who I love, as Tesla, and Kyle MacLachlan, who I also love as Thomas Edison. The trailer, they released a trailer this week. I watched it. It actually looks really cool. And I kind of want to see it. It's going to only be available on video on demand starting August 7th. So it's not on streaming yet. I think you're going to have to buy it through like iTunes or Google Shop or whatever you have for your thing. I don't think you can, or maybe they'll have it at Amazon Prime, but you're going to have to pay like $30 to get it or something like that. I will look into that actually, but it's not going to be free on Netflix like some of these other movies are. It's actually going to be out there to get money, like the Trolls movie was and Scooby-Doo movie was, and they made bank also. So we'll see how this was, but this looks really good. And here's hoping that, the Academy has lightened their rules a little bit as to what's going to be eligible for Academy Award nominations this year, obviously due to the disease. So here's hoping that maybe Ethan Hawke and Kyle MacLachlan might get a little bit of love. Same with the Tesla movie as well. Don't know how good it is, but from the trailer, it looks really, really cool. It looks like a unique take on, Tesla. Ethan Hawke is always great. He's an underrated actor. He should have had an Oscar nomination like a couple years ago, or he did. He should have actually won it. No, he didn't have. He won. He had a Golden Globe nomination, but not an Oscar nomination. He should have had an Oscar nomination. That was the whole big deal. They say it was one of the biggest crimes of the last Academy Awards, or the one 2 years ago or something like that. It was like for a preacher or something like that. But he's been having an interesting career, and Kyle MacLachlan's always a solid actor to have in there. And so we'll see what happens with that. But definitely check it out. Type in Tesla in your search engine of choice. Check out the trailer from IFC. It actually looks pretty cool. It looks like there's a modern day look on it, like somebody's doing a report on him, and it's going to flash back to see that stuff. So kind of be interesting. The North National Oceanic Association of America or something like that. I don't know what the NOAA is. There were scientists that were filming a massive shark feeding frenzy underwater. It might not seem very interesting to you, but for scientists and biologists and stuff like that, they want to see how, these creatures and marine biologists like that, how these creatures, have their thing and just view a mass swarm feeding frenzy. Well, they got lucky. Well, not lucky for this shark, but they got lucky to catch one of the sharks in this feeding frenzy actually got eaten whole. I don't know. I think it was maybe by a barracuda or something. I don't know. But a shark was eaten whole, and the NOAA has it on video. So they're going to be studying that for a while. Stephen King just released a short story, or it's either novellas or a short story. I think it was novellas. I think it was a novella book that just came out about a month or so ago. And already, because everyone loves their Stephen King stuff, John Lee Hancock will be adapting Stephen King's story, Mr. Hannigan's or Hanniton's Harrington's Phone, for Netflix. I haven't read it. Couldn't tell you what it's about, but Netflix will be doing another Stephen King thing. They've been doing a bunch of Stephen King ones. And here's a new one also. There's another Stephen King story coming up later on the show. You'll hear about that later. Here's another Netflix thing. The Haunting of Hill House, which was one of the best rated streaming series from last year, I guess. It seems like maybe it was 2 years ago. It seems, all the years are jumbling together now. Season 2 of The Haunting of Hill House will be coming out to Netflix this year. They've already declared it. It will be out this year. Same with The Mandalorian. It'll be coming out on time also in November. So we'll get some new material coming up in the fall, because the fall rules. Snickers is releasing a new product, the peanut brownie flavor. It's a brownie flavored Snickers bar. Looks interesting. I will let you know if I find it. You know how I like to get that stuff. Another new thing for protection is the Shield Pod. It's an upper body shield. You slide in over your head. It covers, right about from your torso. Well, actually, it's not that far. It's about from right up here, right about where your gut is, to over your head. You attach stuff to a belt that you wear around your pants and stuff like that. But it's able to make things movable, and you're completely encased, but there's enough space inside so you're not feeling suffocated. So it's the new Shield Pod. If you're really interested into that kind of stuff, we'll see what happens. Jason Voorhees bath bombs are a thing, and it's the hockey mask. You throw it in your bath, and guess what? It streams out red. Who would have thunk it? That sounds like something for Halloween, so I will put that as part of our Halloween stuff as well. That Thing You Do, as I told you, I watched that show with the movie with my daughter yesterday, has a cameo role. Maybe not a cameo, but it's not really a supporting role because she's only in it for about maybe 5 minutes. But Charlize Theron, who is a goddess, one of my goddesses, actress goddess ones. My wife is my only goddess, but my actress goddesses, that includes Sarah Michelle Gellar, Felicia Day, Elizabeth Berkley, who else? Anna Kendrick, and Charlize Theron, of course, is in there as well. She is presently on Netflix right now with a comic book movie that came out yesterday called The Old Guard. I've heard varying things about it. One person said it was one of the most boring things they've ever watched. Another person said it was really, really good. It is based on a comic book that is owned by Greg Rucka, who is a really good writer. He'll be popping up later in the show. Actually, popping up, I'll make him the next story. That is about a group of immortal soldiers who, as it points out, they're immortal, they can't die, and they're soldiers that go around and they attack things. So I guess the whole point, I think I saw the trailer for a while back. It looked interesting. It's got Charlize Theron in it, and they're training up like a new immortal that they discovered to be a new soldier for them. So we'll see what happens. But there's about 3 comic series of The Old Guard out. I think this one adapts the first one. So if it does well, it should generate a sequel. But because Charlize Theron, and this seems to be a case with a lot of people, Eddie Murphy's had done it recently as well. And there are other actors as well who have a really good relationship with Netflix. They make a film, Netflix comes in. Chris Hemsworth is another one with his action film that came out. He really enjoyed his time there, so he's going to be doing a sequel to that one as well for Netflix. But Charlize Theron, she had a great time working with Netflix on The Old Guard. So she's in talks with The Atomic Blonde 2 to come out on Netflix. That's also based on a comic book. I haven't seen the original one, but it's like a female John Wick sort of thing. From what I heard, my friend Gary watched it. He said he really, really enjoyed it a lot. It's Charlize Theron, so I might have to check that out. So she, I don't think it did that well, but with Netflix, it doesn't need to do well. That you just need to make it and stream it, and it'll probably be hugely popular on the streaming service. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. There was also talk that she'd love to do a John Wick crossover or team up. I think that would be absolutely brilliant as well, but I do not foresee that happening in any near future as well. Because of the way all these movies are being pushed around and knocked out. I think the new John Wick movie's now been moved to like 2022 now. Maybe not, maybe at least 20. No, it was probably supposed to be out in 2021. It's not going to be out till 2022 now, I think, which is also, I think, the same year that they're releasing Matrix 4. So just because they're finishing filming it now, but it's going to take a really long time to do special effects. So we'll see. Maybe they'll get it out by 2021. We'll see. So speaking of Greg Rucka, as I told you, he was the creator of The Old Guard. So he's getting some good moolah from this movie because he's creator-owned. He, along with, Edward Brubaker, that's what it was, back in the, I guess it would be the early 2000s, mid-2000s, they wrote a comic series for DC called Gotham Pd, or Gotham, was it? No, that's not Gotham Pd. It was called Gotham Central. Basically, it was a police procedural comic set in Gotham City, present-day Gotham City, with a cast of characters that you've seen. It didn't focus on the commissioner because he's already seen all over the place, but it focused on some of the other characters that deal with the super villains and the Batman and all that stuff in Gotham. It was a really, really well-received series, lots of critical acclaim, and it was actually really, really brilliant. It was really good. Michael Lark, I think, did a lot of the art on it. There might have been, I think Darwin Cook also might have did some work on it as well. So some really, really interesting stuff. I think it was the first story arc was about people people were being killed and then dressed up as Robin and left all over the place to make it look like Robin was getting killed over and over again. And believe it or not, it wasn't about the Joker. It was about some sort of other sick serial killers, which they should really focus on because the Joker is way too overused right now in DC, but that's besides the point. Anyway, Gotham Central was a great series, a great idea, and it's sort of, it got canceled once Rucka and Brubaker were like, yeah, we're done telling our stories, and they really couldn't find anyone else. I think Bendis might have been good to do if he was working for DC, but he wasn't at that time, so I think they just said, okay, we'll just cancel it, boom, and we'll see what happens. So Matt Reeves, who is directing the new Batman movie, which has now gotten back to being filmed again in England, is teaming up with Terrence Winter, who was the creator of Boardwalk Empire that was on HBO, starring Steve Buscemi, about the creation of Atlantic City. Now, I read a book earlier this year that Boardwalk Empire took their story from, and it was actually a really good history of Atlantic City. So if you get a chance, read. If you saw the show, you get a general idea of what it's about, but the book itself is a much more thorough, in-depth history of Atlantic City, and it's actually very fascinating. My aunt and uncle live across the bay from Atlantic City in Ocean City, New Jersey, so it's kind of a local thing for me too, but it was a really good story. But Terrence Winter and Matt Reeves are teaming up to do a Batman cop TV show on HBO Max called Gotham PD. So that's where the Gotham PD came in. So basically, they're taking the Gotham Central idea, changing the name to Gotham PD, and throwing it on HBO Max as a TV series. So that'll probably won't be till for a little while, but it's a good idea, I think. Police procedurals do very well, but when you set it in the world of Batman, you can always use the supervillains. You could use villains other than the Joker. Please use like the Riddler or Harvey Dent or anybody. Killer Croc. Hell, that would be a great storyline with regular cops trying to take down a giant crocodile. But I digress. So that could be interesting, and that might be enough for me to get HBO Max. I don't know though, because Justice League Dark is another one. So I might not get HBO Max right away, but I might be leaning on it maybe a year or so down the line once this thing starts getting rolling. But it has been announced, and it is going to be done. So yay on that one. Is there anything else on this page about? Because there's some other DC stories notes on the next page over. So we'll continue. My alma mater from college is Albright College. Was a small school when I went there. Only about maybe 300 people in my class, maybe 1,500 people total in the college. Ever since I left, it has been a humongous explosion where they've gotten money out the wazoo. They've bought up properties of land that have been, people have been on it, but they left and they've been abandoned or whatever. They took them out. They bought the land. They tore down the buildings and they rebuilt stuff that's connected to Albright. They created all new college courses. They created new dorms, all kinds of stuff. And I haven't been back yet to see the new futuristic version of Albright, but it has like quadrupled its attendance. So it's now becoming a much bigger school than it was when I went there, which is good and bad, but it's, it's good. But I was involved in the theater group, the Domino Players, and we did okay. I mean, we weren't anything special, but we did okay. But we didn't get any critical acclaim. And once I left and once our director passed away and a new guy came in and changed up how they were going to do Albright's theater program, he started, changing things up to suit him. I think Jeffrey Lentz is his name. I think I met him once or twice. And he made it his own thing. So he decided that he thinks that, he wanted to get some talent in there and was able to cultivate talent and get talent to come to Albright. So much so that they have won multiple theater awards worldwide. I mean, not just in Pennsylvania where Albright is. It was, they've won lots of national theater awards, and they've gone and they've done, shows in Washington and Baltimore and other places as well. But they just announced today that Albright has earned 8 2020 National Theater Awards. So it has won 8 awards for their theatrical programs. So Albright is now considered a really good school if you're into drama. So if you're into theater and drama, I would recommend going to Albright College in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's about 2 hours from Baltimore, which is where I'm located. So for me, it was nice because it was far enough away from my parents that they weren't going to be coming up every weekend to visit me, but it was also close enough that if I needed to go home for a weekend, it wasn't going to take forever to get back and forth. I could spend some time at home, and it would only be a couple hours up and back. So it was worth it, and had lots of good experiences and some bad experiences there, but that's what you expect in college. So good on that. History. I took history at college, at Albright College. Graduated with a BA in history, and we did not learn this. We know all about the Nazis and how they were trying to build up the perfect Aryan race by using genetics and getting people with mental disabilities and regular disabilities to get them so that they could not have children, because it would taint the German line. Well, I did not know that they were trying to do this with stallions as well, because the Germans apparently kidnapped hundreds of stallions in an attempt to breed a super horse. Well, you know what? No one ever said Adolf Hitler was a smart man. So, yeah, but that's one aspect of history I did not know about. And now I kind of wish they'd write a book about it so I can read it. I'm presently reading a book written by Eric Larson, The Garden of Beasts, about the rise of Hitler through the eyes of the American ambassador. And I'm almost done, and it's a really, really good story. So it would have been an interesting thing to read about this super horse. Oh, well. Broken heart syndrome is going up during the pandemic. Now you all think, broken heart syndrome, that's not a real disease. Yeah, it actually is. Natalie Portman died of broken heart syndrome in Revenge of the Sith. Maybe, but, and it sounded goofy at the time that she died of broken heart. But it is a serious disease. It is similar to a heart attack, except it does not attack the blood vessels. It attacks the actual heart itself, weakening the muscles as well due to abnormal physical or mental stress, which during this pandemic, you obviously can get a little bit of both depending on things as well. So it's understandable, and it makes sense that it's happening. And it's about time someone shined a light on something that might actually be happening. That might be why depression is up as well, and why I have no urge to do anything except read and look at my cell phone and play Fortnite and Pokemon Go and help my kids when I can. But I should be writing. I should be doing laundry. I should be cleaning the house. I should be cleaning this shithole in the back here to make room for a nice basement, because this is a beautiful basement when it's not filled with shit. I should be doing all this stuff. My wife is working and I'm not at this point. And I can't get the urge to do it. And I think that is not laziness so much as, it's something that is a aspect of this quarantine/pandemic. But hopefully, if this continues into the fall, maybe I'll be able to push through it, because fall is like where I get regenerated and rejuvenated. Summer's where I'm just sort of like down the ground. But we'll see what happens. But it is a thing. Another thing that, this isn't on my list, but I just thought of, is the idea of the now I want to talk about it, I can't think, the collective unconscious. You've been watching Northern Exposure, which is one of my favorite shows. They had a lot of discussions about the collective unconscious. But a couple episodes where people swap dreams, or they talked about dreams they had. Twin Peaks uses dream imagery a lot as well. The collective unconscious basically means that when everybody's asleep, like let's face facts. Right now it is 10:24 p.m. on a Saturday night, July 11th, right? Yep, Saturday night. So a lot of people probably aren't sleeping, but at the same time, you really can't go out and do too much because of the pandemic/quarantine. But it's still kind of early enough on Saturday. There still might not be a lot of people, but there also might be people who are already in bed right now, or they'll be going to bed by the time this episode is over in about an hour. So, that means everybody is basically, you ever had that feeling? I'm sorry, I'm all over the place this way I am. When you get up, like in the middle of the night, you've been sleeping for like 2 or 3 hours, and you wake yourself up because either you have to go to the bathroom, or you thought you heard a noise, or you had a bad dream and you woke up all of a sudden, and you get up, maybe you have to go to the bathroom or look out the window to see if you heard something, whatever. And you're looking out on the world and there's nobody out there, no cars on the roads, all the houses are dark, there's nobody walking around, and all the people are all sleeping at that time, for the most part that we know of. I mean, some could be having sex, some could be wide awake watching television, but it's in the dark or whatever. Majority of people probably are sleeping though. And due to like a quarantine pandemic sort of thing, one of the things a lot of people have been mentioning during this quarantine pandemic, which is now for me has been going on over 100 plus days, is dreams have been really, really weird. Now, I usually have a set amount of dreams, and then there are locations that I always seem to revisit periodically. My dreams have been sort of scattered lately. And during this whole pandemic, my daughter's mentioned the same thing also. It's sort of been scattered as well. You can make a case for some of the stuff that you're dreaming about because basically dreams are your mind replaying your day and what you're discussing over and over again. But there have been some times, though, where I'm dreaming about places and people that either I've met just briefly or I saw them on Twitter, pictures, selfies, whatever, and we're all having like a shared dream, like we're all hanging out together in a house. And then, I don't say anything, but then I read something like, yeah, I had this dream that I was with a bunch of weird people in a house. And I'm like I had a similar dream. The collective unconscious means when you're all going through a situation like this, that your minds start to kind of connect a little bit. That's what collective unconscious means. It means that, when you're all asleep, the unconscious is laid bare and everybody takes their own little portals here and there to go to their dreams, whatever, blah, 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 and have their dreams. But sometimes these dreams intersect and you have, dreams where you might not remember it, but you might have vague memories like, why did I dream of this person? I haven't talked to them in years, or thought about them in years. Now, a lot of times you can say, well, I saw their name on Twitter today, but I didn't see a picture. But then all of a sudden I'm picturing them and we're having a conversation about sushi. I don't know. But collective unconscious is something that everyone is sort of affecting each other's dreams. And some of the stuff that you might be dreaming might be from somebody else that they're spreading to you and vice versa. That being said, I do have a new story idea, which I'm not going to reveal right now, but it details time travel in Western towns. But I've been also toying with the idea of aliens and a pandemic from outer space. But I have been reading the Andromeda Strain, so we'll see what happens. Actually, I've read the Andromeda Strain, read its sequel, the Andromeda Evolution. Not as good as the Andromeda Strain, but that's besides the point. Anyway, enough of my blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. Josh Cooley, the director of Toy Story 4, has his new title, or has his new film. His new film is going to be Little Monsters. It is a live-action, animated, hybrid monster film. Maybe not anime, but maybe more along the lines of maybe CGI, hybrid sort of thing, which is going to have a different look at the Universal monsters, more family-oriented, family-friendly version of it. That's all that they're saying, but you know what? The Universal monsters are always interesting. As I said a couple weeks ago, I discovered those DVDs and / Blu-rays that came out years ago, the turn of the century, which collected all the old movies onto one disc. And I kind of wanted to get them, but I never got them. And they sort of disappeared from my mind, but they popped up again on my feed. I'm like, I think I'm going to buy a couple of those because they're like $15. And you get like 6 movies each one. And it's got a set with Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Creature in the Black Lagoon. But I didn't know The Creature in the Black Lagoon had more than one movie. It had like 4 movies, The Invisible Man, stuff like that. So I'm looking at them as like, I think I want to get some of these. And it's the original Boris Karloff's and what's his face that Ed Wood was about, who played Dracula. I can't think of him right now. See, he'd be so mad at me right now because I just thought of Boris Karloff right away, and he didn't like Boris Karloff all that much. This is going to drive me crazy, and I got to give him credit for that. So, I don't want that. I want to drop that. Let's type in Dracula. Dracula. I should say Dracula movies. Dracula movie. Hey, there it is. But there have been so many Dracula movies, so that's going to kill me. I'm going to see that name. I'll be like, why didn't I think of that before? Ah, there he is. It is. Hello, hello. Bela Lugosi. Come on, man. You should have known that. Ed Wood's one of my favorite movies. I'm sorry, Bella. Sorry, I thought of Boris Karloff first. I'm a son of a bitch, aren't I? But it's going to be neat, though. And plus, I think Blumhouse is going to do a really, really good job with their trying to bring about their dark universe. The Invisible Man took off better than they hoped for. More of a horror-oriented one, so they're going to bring sort of the horror back to the Universal monster. So you're going to have a truly horrible Invisible Man, because you got to think about that. An Invisible Man, is scary as hell, and they should make a sequel called The Invisible Woman. That would be freaking even more scary. And there's another story in here. Let me see if I actually can find this one, because it is connected to that. I think it's Gyllenhaal's it's Gosling. That's right. Ryan Gosling is going to be acting as the Wolfman. His Wolfman film has gotten the green light. I think Blumhouse is also doing that as well. So you're going to have a new Wolfman movie with Ryan Gosling. And, if you can make it a nice straight up horror film, one of the best werewolf movies I ever saw was not Fright Night, that's vampires, was Silver Bullet, which is based on a Stephen King book. And this one, and American Werewolf in London is classic as well. But this would be a fantastic film. Ryan Gosling is a pretty good actor, right? And I think it'd be a fun film. And, to give it kind of a straight up horror, someone who turns into a wolf and attacks people, you can actually make it into, whereas American Werewolf in London, while it was horrific, had its bit of a humorous side to it as well. So did The Howling by Joe Dante. And Silver Bullet was mostly straight up drama, and that was good also. And you have a nice, good sort of thing like that. So if you can make a good, scary film like that, it might be good to catch. So you're going to also want to kind of have a other side to it with, a more family-friendly one. Another good example, Monster Squad is a fantastic film with the Universal monsters in it. Wolfman's got nards and stuff like that. It was a really, really good. Creature stole my Twinkie. Great lines, great shot. I showed it to my daughter already. Halloween, I'm going to watch it again because I love that film. So you got to have something similar to that. So to be continued on that, we'll see. The good side on that is that AMC, which has been having some issues with opening their theaters, they're thinking they're going to be declaring bankruptcy, declared this week that they've actually have a debt deal in place now, which is going to give them a lifeline to survive into 2021, which means that when they reopen, despite the fact that it's probably going to be a slow opening because, I think the movies are still going to come out in August, but it's going to be really, really hard to tell if people are going to come out to see Tenet and Mulan and stuff like that. Or, if the August, September movies are going to be kind of a tell to see if opening the theaters, what's that's going to happen. Is it going to cause an increase in disease amongst people who go to the theater? Is the mask going to be allowed? How's that going to work when you want to eat popcorn? That kind of thing. Are they going to be able to do it where you're not sitting all together? Are you going to do like half capacity? Now that's the problem too, is you're only going to be able to do half capacity. So when you have a theater that has like 300 seats and it's a brand new movie like a Tenet or a Mulan that comes out, you want all 300 of those, sold for like, let's say the matinee is like $6, let's just say. So it's like $1,800. And that's good, but when you're going to reduce it in half, so it's only 150 for that's only $700. So, no, that's not true. It's something along those lines, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to say. But we'll see what happens. But the fact that AMC has this plan in place because they are expecting that the tail end of this year, again, the fall is going to be outrageous with the amount of great films that are going to be due out, which have been all smushed from the summer into this period of the fall and even leaking into January and February. So January might actually be an interesting month this year as well, with the fact that usually in January you don't get really good films. You get some of the Oscar nominee ones going wider so more people can see it. but you're not going to actually be able to don't really have a few hits. Ace Ventura is the exception in that case. But in this new normal, it's going to all depend on what happens this fall in the movie theaters. They're going to start off at half capacity. So the money's not going to be in so much for these movies like a Tenet and Mulan. They're probably not going to go astronomical $1 billion money hits like that. It'll probably be, if you're lucky, a domestic gross of 100 million might actually be considered a win. We'll see what happens. But the fact is, AMC is going to be able to ride out the rest of this year, hoping that this last quarter of the year coming up, with all these big budget films smushed all together in a span of about 4 months, actually technically 5 months if you count August, is going to help bring back their money and bring people to come out to the movie theaters and see new stuff for the first time ever. And, to see your favorite characters, your Wonder Womans and your Dunes and stuff like that, to get people to come out and entice them to come out. And hoping that the virus tends to continue dipping. Well, it's not dipping, it's actually going up right now, but hopes that it's eventually going to level off and go down, which will be able to cause more money, be able to add more seats. And then by the time the year comes to an end, they're going to have some good money built up from these sandwich quarterly films coming in here, and hoping that riding the wave into 2021, they're going to be able to pay off their debts and their employees and stuff like that. So this debt deal is going to help them breeze into that. So I think it's a good idea. We'll see what happens. Netflix again is going to be premiering an autism dating show, which I think is great. It's good to open up dating shows for everybody. I think it's a great idea. So good on you, Netflix, for doing that. So fantastic. Groundhog and a squirrel were photographed together eating breakfast at a tiny picnic table. Now, we've seen that before. People have been putting tiny picnic tables for squirrels and other animals to sit at and having the food there. So it looks like they're having breakfast together. Normally, it's squirrel, groundhog. In this case, there's groundhog on one side, squirrel on the other, and it's one of the most adorable pictures I've ever seen. I think that's really cool. Everyone knows I love the fall. Fall rejuvenates me somehow. I don't know why. I was born in the summer. Well, basically, I was born that weird first day of summer every 4 years, Gemini, Cancer cusp, mid-June, middle of the year sort of thing. I'm like the midpoint of the year. That's me. June 20th is really kind of the midpoint of the year, if you be honest. 6 months, it's the 6th month. There's 12 months in the year. So half of 12 is 6, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know why, for whatever reason. I know there are certain things about the fall that involve sex and marriage and children and football. And just, I like the temperatures, I like the colors, the smells, the tastes, the apple pies, the cider, the Halloween, prepping for Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and getting all excited about that. I'm a holiday person. It all builds up like that. That's why fall is like my absolute favorite season. And if I could, I would live in a fall all year round. I don't think I'd ever get sick of it because it's always too short anyway. And sometimes it gets really rainy here in the fall, so you don't really get the feeling of a crisp fall day. You might get 1 or 2 during the year, and that's enough to sustain me, but still, I love the fall. So we're going to start talking some Halloween stuff. The first Halloween thing I'm going to be talking about is floating witch hat lights is the newest trend now in lighting. So Halloween stuff might start coming out. My daughter asked me that today. It's like, Dad, do you think the Party City might have their Halloween stuff out? I was like, I think it's still a little too early for Party City to have stuff out. Plus, they might be having issues with their distributor to get their stuff. So we'll see what happens. I said, I don't think so. Maybe in August. But besides, Target right now is just working on back to school right now. I was there the other day. They had skids out of all their stuff, all the books and pens and crayons and folders and notebooks and book bags and all that stuff. And they were starting to get the design of how it's going to look in their back to school section. So I'm going back probably sometime this week. When I check it out again, it'll probably be all set and ready to go. So we'll see what happens. But floating witch hat lights, they look pretty cool. And might have to check it out, see if I can find it. Halloween will be popping up later on in the show. Um, I have a love-hate relationship with Quentin Tarantino. I think Pulp Fiction is one of the most overrated films of all time. I get blasted for that periodically, but that's how I feel. And some of the movies, they all seem to be kind of the same. He gets away with a lot of stuff that he really shouldn't have. But then he goes and he makes some great films like Jackie Brown or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But one of the series that his series of movies that I always caught of his that I really kind of enjoyed was the Kill Bill movies. Kill Bill 1 and Kill Bill 2, obviously, which should have been one film, but because of the length and stuff like that, you can't do that in today's world. But hopefully someday maybe he'll make, and maybe he already has done an edit which has both films together into one big, like 4 or 5 hour long film. Or do like they're going to do with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, turn it into a mini series on TV. That might be good too. Anyway, Tarantino has always said that he always wanted to make a third Kill Bill movie. He's also said he's only going to make like 10 films. And I find it kind of odd that he put such an arbitrary number up, but that's besides the point. We're not talking about that. So Kill Bill 3 is one that he's been talking about. It's like he's always thought of Kill Bill as being a trilogy. And the reason why you haven't seen Kill Bill 3 yet is because he wanted it a specific amount of time to pass because he has a specific storyline in place. If you remember from, I believe it's the original Kill Bill, the first one of the first assassins that Uma Thurman's character goes after is played by Vivica Fox. And she has a young daughter who is in the house when Uma attacks. And I think kind of witnesses or knows that this white woman killed her mother. So this young girl sort of has her Batman moment where she's like, I'm going to get my revenge on this woman. So basically what Tarantino wanted to do was he wanted the third movie to come out 10, 15, 20 years after Kill Bill 2, which would give this young girl enough time to train herself up so that she could be a killer assassin and go after her own revenge story on Uma Thurman's character, which was sort of flip the story because, as you know, spoiler alert, Bill Ed gets killed at the end of the second movie. So what does Uma Thurman have to live for? She's done what she needed to do. She's wiped out everybody, so her revenge is complete. But now she's a part of a different revenge that she doesn't have control over, even though she caused it. So Tarantino is interested in doing that. So Vivica Fox was being interviewed for some reason, and there's a reason for it. Probably did a film or something like that. And she mentioned that she thought that Tarantino should cast the actress Zendaya from the Spider-Man movies, the Marvel MCU Spider-Man movies, as her daughter in Kill Bill 3. And I started thinking about that. I was looking at Zendaya, and I'm thinking about the movie, and I was like, God damn, that's a great idea. That's a really good idea. And I think Zendaya's got the chops to do it because everyone's like, oh, she's that girl from Spider-Man, but she's been in other films where she's shown an insane acting ability. I think she's even in the new Dune movie coming up soon, I think. So don't quote me on that. Is she? God, I need to be more prepared, don't I? Let's see. Dune. 2020 film. Where's the cast? There's the cast. Let's see. Yeah, she is. I was right. Hey, she plays Chani. I guess the female lead. So you got to love that. This actually looks like a really good film. Timothy Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, David Dastmalchian, Stephen McKinley, Charlotte Rampling, Chang Chen, Sharon Duncan Brewster, Gloria Biano are the main things. It's just a killer cast and a good director by Villanueva. So it should be interesting. I might have to check that one out. I haven't read Dune. I probably need to read that before I go see that just to see how it. I saw the David Lynch one because I'm a David Lynch fan, and there's a college story in there where at the time I was with my girlfriend and we were watching Dune at our friend's house and we were making out in the chair, so I caught a little bit of it. So yeah, I was busy, but I saw some of it. David Lynch, I like David Lynch. I like Kyle MacLachlan, so who knows? So we'll see. I think that's a great idea. I think Zendaya's got the chops to do it. I think she'll be really, really good at it, and we shall see. Tropical Storm Faye has come and gone. A, B, C, D, E, F. Sixth named storm of the year already. We haven't had one for a while now. We were top heavy with like 3 in like May, which was early. But we've had a couple since then. Faye was a really small little tropical storm, didn't really cause much, formed off the coast of North Carolina, blew up as I don't even think it made a hurricane level. I think it was a tropical storm. It blew up through, flooded a little bit of Ocean City, Maryland, some aspects of New Jersey, and then it just sort of went and disappeared. So we'll see what happens. Remember, though, the hurricane season goes through October. So you've got, November 1st is the end of hurricane season. So you still have a long time ago, because June is the beginning of it. So we're just at the beginning here, and we've already had 6 named storms. So we'll see what happens coming up. I mean, I doubt we'll have that one where we went through all the letters of the alphabet. Then we had to start to do like alpha and beta and shit like that a couple years ago. But none of them were really totally serious from what I remember. So obviously, since it's 2020, everyone's saying, well, it's probably going to be a bad hurricane season. And you know what it probably will be? It'll probably be the year that we have a hurricane. We haven't had a hurricane hit Maryland in like forever. We get all the, the remnants. We get some heavy rain and wind and stuff like that, but never the flooding and the, not that I want that stuff, but it's always kind of cool that, there's a hurricane coming to hit us. I'm never going to forget the time we had the one hurricane was coming up the coast. This is in the 90s. And it looked like it was going to hit Baltimore head on. It was going to be a big, massive storm. People were like, you got to shut down your work. It's going to be lots of flooding. And they're like, I ain't going to go around Baltimore. And went around Baltimore and then went straight up again the coast. It was funny as hell. So, oh well. Wonder Woman Candy Lasso. I guess that's part of the whole thing where Wonder Woman, the movie, was supposed to be out this month, actually. Actually, it's not June. It's July. Jesus, where is my head? June was when Wonder Woman was supposed to be out. So still, what I said still takes. It's still early in hurricane season, but we're over that. So Wonder Woman had a 1984 supposed to come out in June. And I saw some Lego stuff at Target for Wonder Woman. There were comic books that had been set up to try to get the whole group of people into Wonder Woman, stuff like that, and just to drop the whole Wonder Woman thing, because that's what you want to do when you have a comic book movie with a character that has a comic out. You're going to want to throw everything you can at it, so people who see the movie who might not normally go to comic stores or buy Legos or whatever will go in and boom, buy that stuff because they saw the movie and liked it. So I guess this Wonder Woman Candy Lasso is something new, but it's about the length of her lasso. You can wear it on a little belt you have for them. You just pull it out like that. Kind of neat idea. So I talked about how AMC has this road to getting their a debt deal in place where they're going to get a road to 2021 cleared and they'll be fine. Paris, France, meanwhile, has a genuine idea. Drive-in movie theaters have been going like bonkers here in the United States because of this pandemic. So Paris decided to one-up everybody. They said, we're going to do a floating drive-in theater for people who have boats. So basically, they're going to have a cove or something where there's a big giant building, and you can ride your boat to this cove, and they'll project a film up onto the screen. You'll be able to watch a movie outside on your boat in Paris during the summer. I think there's probably places in the United States that do that as well. I mean, I knew there was one place that showed Jaws in the middle of a lake or something like that, which freaked people out because, Jaws is in the water. Like, oh God, what is that? And it's like some sort of big fish or something swims by them. Like, oh shit, is that a shark? That's kind of good. So I got to calm down for a second. I'm a little bit on fire today. I feel pretty good, actually. I feel pretty good now. Here's something interesting. Here's a name that we haven't heard in a really long time. Do y'all remember an actress by the name of Cameron Diaz? Of course you did. Everybody knows Cameron Diaz, but she hasn't done anything. God, who knows? It's been 5, maybe 10 years. It's been a really long time. I think I heard somewhere she was going to retire from acting anyway. And the one story was coming out that they were trying to do a Mask 2, or well, they did a Mask 2, but a reboot of the Mask, or not reboot, but bring Jim Carrey back for the Mask. And Cameron Diaz, that was like her film that she debuted in, said that might be the only movie she might come out of her retirement to be in again. Anyway, Cameron Diaz is in the news this week. I've been talking about this. Actually, this is a common thread that's been going through my show for the last couple months about celebrities creating their own wineries. Well, Cameron Diaz has that as well. She has a wine brand. Wineries are cool, and you can never have too much wine. And as long as it's done properly and you get a good name on it, like the Coppola wine is fantastic. They did a really good job of that, but a lot of people got into it because of the name. But in it of itself, Coppola does a really good job with the wine. So, why not, Cameron Diaz, put your name on it. Maybe you're involved in the harvesting or the making of it. That's cool. So keep an eye out for Cameron Diaz wine, and maybe it'll be good. What they were showing was more like the white stuff, which I'm not a big fan of. The sweeter, drier ones that need to be served really kind of chilled and not just straight up out of the bottle. Because to me, the white wines, they upset my stomach. I don't understand why. My stomach's screwed up anyway, so it doesn't matter. Pokemon Go is in the news again. I talked about the Pokemon card, and I still play Pokemon Go, and I will be playing Pokemon Go forever. But this is the month that's leading up to Pokemon Go Fest. My wife and I have been dying to go to a Pokemon Go Fest. They pick an area, usually Chicago, where for 2 days they have a big event in the Chicago park with all kinds of events and Pokemon you don't always see all the time, and chances to get better, chances to get shiny, stuff like that. And then they've expanded to other countries and other states and stuff like that. But because of COVID, they can't do that now. So they have been working since the pandemic quarantine has started, where they've made adjustments to make Pokemon Go able to be done straight from home. So they're doing that. They're going to do a Pokemon Go Fest from home in 2 weeks. 25th, 26th of July will be Pokemon Go Fest. And both days are going to be different. So you buy one ticket and you get both days. So for $15, you get tickets. So I bought my ticket. My wife bought hers. We're going to be going to the at-home Pokemon Go Fest. Basically, what they're going to do is the people who bought the tickets, when the Pokemon Go Fest doors open at 9 a.m. or whatever, your screen, which shows your neighborhood actually, it's the way Pokemon Go is done is that it shows your neighborhood, and not in Google Earth view, but I forgot how loud it is. But here's basically, this is my neighborhood. This is my neighborhood. See, this is what Pokemon Go looks like. This is my neighborhood right here, And what they're going to do is basically when Pokemon Go Fest starts, they're going to change it completely. They're going to create their own big giant land, like a big park or whatever, where it's going to have certain areas you got to go to, and you take your Pokemon to that. You walk your avatar over that area, and you catch the Pokemon they deal with and do stuff. They're going to do worldwide contests where like you need to have 1 million people catch Pokemon. If you do that, you're going to unlock some other stuff as well. So, it's going to be kind of cool. So it's going to be a worldwide event in 2 weeks, and I'm really stoked to see it. Should be a lot of fun, but that'll be good. So leading up to that, they've been, and they've done this during regular Pokemon Go Fest time also, where leading up to the actual Pokemon Go Fest, they put out a competition to everybody in the world. Says if you're in 3 different teams, you got the blue, red, and yellow teams, Instinct, and I forget whatever team I'm on and whatever, but it's 3 teams, blue, red, and yellow, and every team, Instinct is one, and I forget the other ones. They are given a task that they have to do. And if worldwide task, and if everyone across the world catches like 500 of a certain Pokemon or whatever, and your team does, so if you're your blue team and you're supposed to catch 500 of this one specific Pokemon, in general, you don't have to personally catch 500. If you catch 2 or 4 or 5, you're adding to the total. So if everybody catches a 5, they will unlock a Pokemon for Go Fest. So they've been doing that this way, but they've decided to change it up a little bit. Last week, they were doing the anniversary event, and the flying event. So there were new flying Pokemon, and we had to catch a certain amount of Pokemon. I haven't seen if we actually succeeded in unlocking a Pokemon or not, but we'll see what happens. But this week is the Team Rocket event, where Team Rocket, which is, for those who've seen the cartoon or play the games or whatever, know that it's the big enemies, the sworn enemies of the Pokemon Go people. They have been invading Pokemon Go since before this quarantine, and you'd have to go to Pokestops and fight them, and fight 3 of their evil Pokemon, and then if you beat them all, you get to catch one of them, and then you can purify them if you want to, and you get points and stuff like that. Then you go through the leaders, and they're a little bit harder, and then if you beat them, you go to Giovanni, who's the leader of the Team Rocket group, and you face him, and then you get like a legendary shadow one. So they've been doing that for a while, but now because of the pandemic and quarantine, some people are not allowed to actually leave their houses. And that's kind of hard because Pokemon Go's whole point is to get your asses out of the house, to walk around, meet people, and walk and catch stuff out and about your neighborhood, stuff like that. Go fight in gyms, which are blocks away, or go to Pokestops that are a block away and do stuff. But because you can't do that now, they've been consolidating stuff and making changes to make it available for homes. So it took them long enough, but they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with the Team Rocket stuff, because the Team Rocket people were still showing up periodically on Pokestops. And those of us who can leave our house, if we wanted to, we could go to the house, we could catch the Rocket and come back. But those who couldn't or don't have any near them, they decided to give them throw them a bone. So they created the Team Rocket balloons, which now fly overhead on your screen. So they'll fly over where you are. So if you're in a house, can find a house. Plus they've extended, Pokemon popping up around your house, so you don't have to leave the house to catch your Pokemon. So now they'll have the Team Rocket stuff flying overhead, and you can click on the balloon. You can fight them from your house. That event is going on this weekend. Tomorrow is a Team Rocket takeover, where it's going to be just like balloon after balloon after balloon. And for those who can get out, the Pokestops will be running with the rockets and stuff like that. And a lot more of the Team Rocket types, the poison and the dark types, will be coming out more, and to be able to catch them. So that's what's going on with Pokemon Go. And then next week, the last event is going to be the Friendship Week, with some new shinies and some new characters as well. And then that's going to lead into Pokemon Go Fest. And then that's going to be the big event at the end of the month. And then we roll into August, and they'll probably come up with something else. So Community Day is also next weekend also. During this Friendship Day, it's going to be Ghastly, which is one of the ghost types. Ghosts are my favorite. So that's what's going on in the world of Pokemon. Sri Lanka rangers report that they've witnessed a rare event. Twin baby elephants have been born. Basically, elephants tend to usually have like maybe one baby at most. Well, apparently there was one in Sri Lanka that had twins. So there were 2 babies. So that's pretty cool. So that's different and unique. And again, as I'm saying, maybe animals are evolving. Another good example is an endangered gorilla. It's in a zoo, I think, or some sort of preserve or reserve or whatever. An endangered gorilla is now pregnant. So that's a good sign that if it can get pregnant and the baby survives, they've just added another one to their species, and it's going to help them take out their endangered species. Stuff's going to take a while, but it could be potentially really good. The Ninth Circuit Court upholds the endangered species protections for Yellowstone grizzlies. My son is actually doing a report about them, which is kind of interesting that this came out while he was doing this report. So, grizzlies in Yellowstone are considered endangered, I guess. And there have been people saying, well, no, actually they're not. They're doing better. So we should cut back on, the stuff that we do to help them. But they're like, no. They actually still are. And the Ninth Circuit Court's like, yeah, they're still endangered. So the protections are still in place for the grizzlies. So you can't hunt them, can't kill them, stuff like that, which is good. You shouldn't have to anyway. But Let's see some sports ball stuff. Last week I told you that the Washington Redskins owner Dan Snyder is getting immense pressure from FedEx, Nike, Amazon, all that they're not going to sell any more Washington Redskins stuff until they change the racist name. Redskins, for those who don't know, was a racist name for Indians and has been a sore spot for years. People trying to change it, but Dan Snyder forever was saying not going to do it. But then, FedEx owns the naming rights to their stadium. Like, well, we're not going to give you any money then till you change it. So he's like, oh, shoot, I better do something about it. So they've put out, a bunch of list of, names, and some people are making joking names, stuff like that. But the one that seems to be a serious one, which sort of connection to Indians and Redskins, is the Warriors seems to be right now in the lead. So eventually it looks like they're really taking the vote seriously. And eventually what they'll do is once they get it, they should probably be getting a name sometime, maybe by the end of the month. That way they can get, T-shirts and hats and new signage, stuff like that, prepped. So when the Washington football team gets their season opener, their new name will be in place and everybody will have their stuff. So Warriors is the top name right now for Washington. And to be honest, you probably don't have to really change anything about that. So with their stuff. So. And baseball is officially coming back. Opening day has been announced for July 24th, which, as I said, is in 2 weeks, the Friday before Pokemon Go Fest. So baseball comes back July 24th. We've been getting views of them practicing in their home fields and stuff like that, getting themselves prepped and ready for opening day. And as a bit of, hey, you know what, we're optimistic about the 2021 season, so we're going to release the schedule for 2021 early. So they've released next year's baseball schedule already, which includes the full April to September schedule of 2021, and to have things go back to normal, expecting things to go back to normal next year. Now, with July 24th being opening day, it's going to be a 60-game season. And the teams are going to be playing both National and American League teams in their area. So the Orioles, who are located in Baltimore, will be playing East Coast teams, the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Pirates. The Tampa Bay is still in there. It's still technically, it's going to be the farthest they're going to have to go. But they are going to do that. Washington, they're going to be playing the Washington baseball team as well, the Nationals. So it's a lot of just local stuff like that. So they're not going to be playing any teams from the Midwest or the West. They're all going to be playing their own stuff. So all the West Coast teams will be playing each other over and over again, and all the Midwest teams. And that's National and American. Universal designated hitter. So good on that. So we got that coming up. Speaking of Indians, the Supreme Court, our Supreme Court, SCOTUS of the United States, declared this week that half of Oklahoma is actually still considered an Indian reservation and should be treated as such, including parts of Tulsa, Oklahoma, should be considered Indian land. So that's been held up, which is really great. This was Supreme Court, but another plus for Indians was they are shutting down the Dakota pipeline, oil, which is going through native land as well. And they're going to shut that down till they get that deal in place. So it looks like things might be getting a little bit better for the Indians, but that's not due to that asshole in the White House. It's due to other forces out there. Also, speaking of the Supreme Court, that asshole in the White House has got a little bit of stress coming his way. While the Supreme Court has upheld the fact that the New York prosecutor who is building a case against him for when he eventually leaves office and will charge him with all kinds of stuff has been granted the right to look at his tax returns. Now, that's a great win. And Congress is eventually going to be able to get a chance to look at him also. It's a great win. However, it's also not, it's a hollow victory because the asshole can keep he can repeal and stuff like that and keep it in the courts until the election in November. So it's a win, but he can delay the reveal of them until later on, which is bullshit, but that's besides the point. Javicia Leslie, an African-American woman, has been cast to replace Ruby Rose as Batwoman. I don't know if she's going to be Batwoman or if she's going to be playing a new character. I think the show is called Batwoman, so she'll probably be putting on the Batwoman thing, costumes, stuff like that. I think it's a brilliant idea. Should be a really good idea, and Ruby Rose is totally for it. She thinks she's a good actress, and we'll see what happens about that. A lot of movie changes their dates. This is the first one, then I'll get into some others later on in the program. But the Forever Purge movie has been moved to 2021. It's supposed to be out in October, I believe. Continuing those Purge movies, the Forever Purge movie has been pushed to 2021. So you got that coming up. Wynonna Earp, which was a TV show on Sci-Fi based on a comic book that came out years ago, not years ago, but 4 or 5 years ago. My wife and I watched the first season, enjoyed it immensely. Missed the last 4 episodes, I think, of the last season of the first season, and then missed the entire second and third seasons because we just lost. We never got a chance to get caught up and stuff like that. Life but happened. But after the third season, Sci-Fi decided they weren't going to renew it and we're going to cancel it. But the Wynonna Earp fan club took a page out of the Star Trek fan club, and they pushed and they prodded and they did all kinds of stuff and just went overtime, blasting Sci-Fi, getting them, forcing them, pushing them into doing this 4th season. And Sci-Fi said, okay, you're good. So 4th season of Wynonna Earp is back. July 26th on Sci-Fi. It's one of those great shows where the creators and the actresses on it and the actors and actresses on it are on Twitter during the episodes. They generally seem to like each other. It's an interesting series, a lot of fun, and has 2 lesbian characters in it, which is great, and Doc Holliday as a vampire ghost. So can't beat that. One of the dumbest things that came out this week was musician Kanye West decided he was going to run for president. He has always been a big buddy of that asshole in the White House, and it just seems kind of odd that he's declaring it now when that asshole looks like he's going to be losing this election in order to try to pull what they did last time to split the vote a little bit. But Kanye is out of his range. But he's not going to make it. It's a terrible decision. If you vote for him, you're absolutely insane. He's not a smart person. He's not a political person, and it would just be more of the same stuff. So then, because of that, because she hasn't been in the spotlight for a long time now, Paris Hilton decided, hey, I'm going to run against him. And I just have to say, come on, shut the fuck up, because neither of you are worth it. And you're not. And it's July, August, September, October, November. It's 4 months away. There's no way you can build up enough. And plus, a lot of places already have their ballots set, so your names aren't even going to be on them. So just shut up and just leave, and just let's see how this turns out. But with the Kanye thing, I think it's an actual plot to try to split the vote because they have no one else who's willing to do it. So there we go. Everyone knows about the Karens. I find that kind of a terrible name because I know a bunch of Karens who are actually really sweet and kind and nice, but this is the term they use for white women who feel they're superior to everybody else and complain about everything and feel that they are being mistreated and stuff like that. They're white women, they're bitches, whatever. But the Karen Act is being passed in San Francisco, which will outlaw racially motivated 911 calls, which is one of those things where, they feel threatened by black people. So they call the cops and they lie to them being that they were attacked by the cops, hoping the cops will come and shoot and kill the black people because they don't like black people because they're white supremacists. Bitches. So San Francisco is going to be like, we know what you're up to and we know it's illegal. So we're going to, make sure that you get busted for it. I mean, some of the stuff that's come out is a white woman not letting a black family into the community pool, despite the fact that they live in the community and they pay the same, HOA fees that allows them to use the pool anytime they want. Or, the one that got everybody was in Central Park, the kind bird watcher who was an editor for Marvel, who was complaining that, you shouldn't have your dog without a leash. She called the cops and claimed that the guy, abused her, and he videotaped the whole thing. So when they came, it's like, nah, I got on video. Here's what she did. And she got busted for that too. So we have all kinds of these. And then the scariest one is the crazy white woman who pointed a gun at black people who were shopping at a shop. It's racist motivated bullshit, and you all should be thrown in fucking prison because you are absolutely ridiculous white supremacist assholes. Scientists find 33 new creatures living in a cave that has been sealed off for 5 million years. They've discovered more than that. They discovered close to like 40 some creatures living in this area that was sealed off for 5 million years, but only 33 of them are only native to that one area. So that's kind of a fascinating, kind of interesting story to look at. Here's another really cool science story. Comet Neowise is a new comet that has been spotted as being visible from Earth now in the morning hours. It's going to be shifting to the night in about a week or so, I think. I think you look to the southwest low in the horizon, like around sunset, I think you might be able to see it. But comets are really neat to see. You just see it. It's a white line in the sky, really. I've seen the comets before, and it's actually really cool to see them. So I'm going to, once I get the word that it's going to be out at night, because seeing it in the day is really tough because of the sun. But some people have been able to photograph it, right before sunset or something like that. But or not sunset, by sunrise or whatever. So we'll see what happens. Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, Brown, stuff like that, have decided to cancel all their fall sports. So there's going to be no football, no soccer, no, cross country. I don't know what women's sports are there. Women's lacrosse, women's soccer, I guess. Stuff like that. All fall sports have been canceled at the Ivy League schools for the fall semester. And into technically kind of after Christmas holiday as well. Basically, they're saying that sports, as of now, will not be able to be played at Ivy League schools until January 1st, 2021. That's that's like the middle of basketball season. So we'll see what happens about that. But that means there's going to be no Ivy League sports at all. And it's kind of interesting because there's actually a bowl game where the Ivy League champion plays in that. So it's going to be interesting to see what they decide to change up for that. Hell, there might not be any college sports this year, depending upon things. Wow, I got 2 full pages left to do. So let's breeze through these. A Florida family has a unique security animal that helps protect their house. It's a security turkey. And there's some videos from their doorbell cam of people from Amazon and mailmen who are trying to deliver stuff, and the turkey goes wild and chases them and gobbles at them the whole time. They're like, whoa, 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 get away from me. What are you doing? It's really quite funny. Giant bird-eating spider has been guarding someone else's garage. So you have a turkey guarding one person's garage, and you have a giant bird-eating spider protecting another one. So, weird. Indigenous Americans, that's what we want to call American Indians, if that's the proper term for it, has been discovered through DNA evidence that they had contact with Polynesians 800 years ago. So basically, American Indians, before we came to this country and ruined it for them, they were hanging out with Polynesians out on Easter Island, and they've been coming and they've been having back and forth. They probably were having all kinds of barbecues and stuff like that. Pretty cool. So that's an interesting little story there. An Oregon man who stole a vehicle, was driving in a high-speed chase away from the police officers, runs into another car. We discover that there's a woman in this car who stole that car. So a woman thief and a male thief stole separate cars, not connected in any way. They're both driving away from the police, and they just happen to run into each other. It seems like the beginning of a romantic comedy done by Netflix. Should be. Oregon's a great country anyway. It's a great state anyway. Glee star Naya Rivera is missing after a swimming accident. Basically, she was in a boat with her son on this lake or whatever, And when she didn't come back, people went out looking for her, discovered the boat and her son alone on the boat, and she was nowhere to be seen. They're dredging, I think, the waters now to see if they can find the body, see where she is. It doesn't look good for her. It looks like that she's probably passed away, had some sort of swimming accident or whatever. Scary, but, it's unfortunately the way it is. A reopened Japanese theme park. I talked about Disney World opening earlier at the show, but now there's a reopened Japanese theme park, has taken their bans one step closer. Disney World has got, you can only wear masks in Disney World. Well, the Japanese theme park is banning screaming on all rides, on roller coasters particularly. If you've ever been on a roller coaster, it's just a primal urge to scream. And the fact that people are now banned from screaming, because if you scream, it's supposed to send out your, particles that might have COVID in it and might get people ill who are in the car with you. But they have banned screaming, and people aren't happy about that. Sometimes you just can't help it. You can't suppress a scream when you're going zoom, 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 wah, wah, wah. So who knows? The NFL, as I said, one of my favorite things of the fall is the NFL. Right now, everything seems to be going full bore with the NFL. They're dropping 2 preseason games, so we're going to have 2 preseason games. But now they've revealed that they will also give all players the right to sit out this season if they don't feel comfortable. So if you're a player and you don't feel like you want to play this year because of COVID issues, or don't want to play in front of empty stadiums, or actually, it's more half, because the Ravens have announced that only 15,000 people are going to be allowed to watch a football game this year, when the M&T Bank can hold about 48,000. So not quite half. It's a little bit less than half are being allowed in, but they're giving. Excuse me. Wow. They're giving the players the rights to sit out 2020 if they don't want to. I don't think there'll be any consequences. I think they're still going to get paid, I think. I'm not sure about that end of it, but it gives them a chance. Like, if you don't feel comfortable about playing in this age of COVID, then don't. We don't want to mess up anything with you. So we'll see what happens. And that's also kind of interesting with the baseball, is that the baseball is not going to be doing any of the minor league stuff this year, because by now the minor league season is starting to wrap up, getting closer to August. It usually wraps up in August because they have call-ups in September. So the minor league season is pretty much almost all done by now, and they haven't even started playing yet. So what they're basically doing is they just canceled all of the minor league stuff this year. So what they're doing is they're opening roster spots in their teams for some of these young players that they have potential for. They would have wished them to have another year or so of seasoning in the minors. But hey, since we have this unique experience, it's only 60 games, which is about the length of a minor league season anyway. Hey, let's bring them up in here and see what they got. And, if they got it good, then we've got ourselves a new player who can come in and play the regular season already with a regular season under their belt. So that could be interesting like that. Netflix, again, Sabrina, the horror aspect of the Sabrina TV show, is being canceled after its 3rd season. The final episodes of the 3rd season will be airing this October, but after that, Sabrina is done on Netflix. So it's done. For my birthday, I got a Nintendo Switch. I haven't set it up yet, but I will very soon. And I was supposed to get my grill today, and I just got lazy, and we decided not to go and get it. So maybe tomorrow or maybe next weekend. Who knows? We'll get my grill sometime. But Donkey Kong Country, which is a game I absolutely loved, is going to be coming to the Switch. So I'm going to be like, I'm buying that. I'm buying it. So when that comes out, I'm buying it. Lay's chips are releasing new flavors based on city specialities, really. You're going to have New York sliced pizza, which actually could be pretty good. You're going to have Nashville hot chicken, which I don't know what that's about, but that could be interesting. You can have Philly cheesesteak. I don't like Philly cheesesteaks anyway to begin with because of the onions and peppers. But hey, for those people who like Philly cheesesteak, hey, now you can cheesesteaks. Now you can get it in a potato chip. And then you're going to get the street taco from El Camino, I think is what it was. And then also only available at Walmart and 7-Eleven, you get chili relleno flavored Lay's chips. So Lay's has got some new stuff coming up this week, or soon this summer anyway. The Wonder Years will be being rebooted, but this time it'll be with a black family. I think what's interesting is that with the Wonder Years taking place in the 60s, now you could do a black family in the 60s having to deal with racism and the Civil Rights Act, and that might be interesting in and of itself. But I think it'd be kind of interesting to see a different decade and how, you know, black families were treated during like the 70s or the 80s, and stuff like that. That might be more interesting. But if they're going to do the 60s again, hey, you got a lot of stories you can deal with racism and the Civil Rights Act, stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. Could be interesting. We'll see. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline is one of those great sci-fi comedy books, which I haven't read yet. I want to read it. It's like on my pile of books, and I think I might have to start reading it because Ernest Cline announced that this fall, Ready Player 2 will be released, a sequel to Ready Player 1. Steven Spielberg made a film version of it, which I do own, but I haven't watched it yet. So I got to get caught up on that before Ready Player 2 comes in. But heard good things about it. I started reading it, but then life happened again. I lost track of it. But now, I've been reading a lot of history books, and then I read De-Evolution, which was a great fictional story, and then I read the Andromeda Strain again while I was on vacation, which I really, really enjoyed. And they did the sequel, Andromeda Evolution, which I'm reading now. So I'm reading a little bit more fiction. Still got my history, and as I said, I'm reading In the Garden of Beasts, and I'm also reading the Zodiac sequel, Zodiac Unmasked, and I'm also reading a book about every state's cryptids, like Bigfoots and stuff like that. I've got other plans. I bought the Hamilton biography that the musical is based on, 818 pages. I want to get the Ulysses S. Grant one, the same writer did, but that's over 1,000 pages. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. I got a bunch of books about Alaska I want to read. I got some other books by Tom Clavin I want to read. For my birthday, I got my Calamity Jane book. I got a book about 1945. So I got a whole bunch of stuff. So if I am going to start reading fiction again a little bit more, I think Ready Player One might be one of those that I want to catch up on before the sequel comes out this fall. Speaking of books, Percy Jackson, which is a great series that my kids read, and my wife and I read early on, but we sort of didn't get caught up with it till we were reading it to the kids. And they did 2 movies, which are awful. And everyone cheered when Rick Riordan said, hey, we're going to be doing a Disney Plus TV show, and I'm going to be totally involved with it. It's going to be perfectly, exactly as you expect it to be. Everybody's cheering, huzzah. However, they're not cheering now because it probably won't be out till 2022. But that makes sense because here we are in 2020. They just announced that they've just finished the pilot outline for the first episode only. And then the first season is going to be the first book series, I guess. And then if they do a second season, the second book series and third, or they might spread it. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to do it. So they're probably just working out stuff. So they're getting the pilot script outlined. Then they have to write it. Then they have to write all the other episodes. Then they got to cast the stuff. Then they got to film the stuff. Then they got to edit the stuff. And then they got to release the stuff. So the way I look at it is, they're just on the outline of the pilot. They've got to write. They've decided it's going to be 13 episodes or whatever. If that's the case, they got to write those 13 episodes. That's going to take a couple months. Then they got to do casting. That's going to take a couple months. They got to figure out a special effects group. That's going to take a few months. They got to figure out directors and locations. And with COVID, who knows what's going to happen? So they got to do that. And then they got to actually film the stuff. And then they actually got to edit it and do the special effects. And then they can release it. So 2022 sounds a reasonable time. I wish it'd be more like 2021. But if you think about it, we're July 2020 right now. 2022 is only really basically is less than 2 years away, because July 2021 is 1 year and July 2022 is 2.5 years from now. So basically January 1st is the beginning of 2022. So we'll see what happens. Whew. But no, not till 2022, but that's okay. A lot of stuff isn't coming out till 2022. I just got to be patient for it. It's going to be worth it. Halloween Kills, which was going to be the sequel to the new Halloween movies that came out 2 years ago with Jamie Lee Curtis, was supposed to be out this Halloween, but because of the COVID stuff and they're afraid of how it's going to be reacted upon, it's going to be more people coming out. They want people to see this film. So they said, all right, we're going to push it back a year to 2021, October 2021. So basically it's more than a year. it's a year from when they were supposed to be released, but it's not going to be now released for about a year and a half. It's done and it's ready. They showed a teaser of it, which showed it's going to take place immediately after the end of the one that came out 2 years ago, and have the same cast. And they're going to add the adult versions of the original cast. Anthony Michael Hall's in it, and they've got some other people as well, so it could be interesting. But in order to do this, because they were the producers kind of were making a deal with the movie theaters. The movie theater says, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to we probably would be a better idea for you to release this in 2021, since that's what a lot of people are doing. It might be done already, but it might be better to do it because that'll give us a better idea of how things are going in the age of COVID after everything's done and over with. To entice them to move it a year, they are going to give it an IMAX theatrical debut as well. It's going to be available in regular one, but the original one was not in IMAX. This one is going to be. As a, here you go, we're going to give this to you as a condolence for doing this, but we're going to give this little thing. We're going to make it IMAX, so they're going to have to repurpose it to IMAX. So I guess that's going to take some time as well. And then the sequel after it, the like Halloween Ends or whatever it is going to be now 2022 again. So originally it was going to be 2021. So we'll see what happens. Gary Larson, the cartoonist for The Far Side that everybody loves, has released his first Far Side cartoon in 25 years. You can only get it on his website, and it doesn't have any words on it. It's basically a cow serving food to somebody. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see what he continues to do. He's going to start releasing them either weekly or daily. I don't know yet. I think it's probably going to be weekly. So we'll see what happens. Speaking of movies being pushed back, Candyman, the reboot of Candyman, which will be co-written by Jordan Peele, I guess that means it's going to be released by Blumhouse, was originally going to come out September 25th. It was moved from June 12th to September 25th. And now they decide, you know what? With Halloween Kills going away, why not put this horror film in the golden age, which is in October, the golden month, which is October. So they're going to move it to October 16th. I don't know if that's when Halloween Kills was supposed to be out, but they saw an opportunity. So this year you will see your Candyman reboot, but it won't be September 25th. It'll actually be in October, which would probably make more money because people like watching horror films around Halloween. Baby Yoda cereal is coming. I think I talked about it before, but it is coming. And here's my Baby Yoda t-shirt that I just got this week from my local comic shop. So that's coming soon. There's a crater on Mars, which has been discovered is full of ice, which potentially could be a water source for any settlers that are going to be landing on Mars within the next 10 to 15 years, depending on how things go from now on. We'll see what happens. Jude Law has been cast as Captain Hook in a new live-action version of Peter Pan and Wendy. Originally, I think they were going for who else? They were going to go for somebody else, but he turned them down. I forget who it is, but they got Jude Law to do it, though. A giant asteroid passed between the Earth and the Moon, and scientists did not know about it till 2 days after it passed, which actually does not give me any good feelings, because that means that they missed a giant asteroid that could hit the Earth. So what's to say that there isn't one on a collision course with Earth that isn't going to hit us at any second? I don't know. Ant-Man 3 is now pretty much a go film. It is said to start production in summer 2021, so 1 year from now. So basically that's going to be part of the new Phase 4. That's good. I like the Ant-Man movies. I don't know why everybody has a hate for it. It's a fun, both of them. I love Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the original Ant-Man's good as well. It's Paul Rudd is fantastic. Michael Douglas is playing a great role. So it's fun, and it's a great film, and I enjoy. That's one of the films that I like rewatching over and over again, like with Captain Marvel. Tron 3 is also Disney is saying now's the time to do a Tron 3. There was a Tron 2 that came out like 20 years after the original, and now they're like, you know what, about 20 years after the original came out, it's about time we do a Tron 3 with new updated CGI and stuff like that. Could be interesting because the light costumes are always so cool. So we'll see what happens about that. A mama bear decides to take her 2 cubs to have a little bit of fun by going to a local children's playground. So there's videotape of the mama bear watching her cubs go down slides and on swings and stuff like that, which again proves to me that animals are evolving. The Brazilian president, who is not a very good person, has contracted the coronavirus. So that's not great. The coronavirus also kills more people in Florida and Texas killed more people in Florida and Texas in 1 month than 20 years of hurricanes. That's not a thing to be proud of, but it's interesting. The California condor, which has also been on the endangered species list but has been slowly getting back on top, has returned to Sequoia National Park for the first time in decades. So that's always a good sign when that's working out pretty good. Dragon Con, one of the big cons, has been canceled. This week coming up will be San Diego Con from home. So if you're interested to see San Diego Con and what it's like, you can do it from your home now starting on Wednesday, I believe, or Thursday. So pretty interesting about that. Let's hit some of these deaths now. Mary Kay Letourneau died. She was famous in the 90s for a school teacher who fell in love with her 13-year-old student. They end up having a affair sexually, and Mary Kay Letourneau got pregnant and ended up having and had a baby with this 13-year-old kid or whatever. Mary Kay Letourneau got arrested, thrown in jail, and the boy ended up having to take care of his son or his children, and continued his relationship with Mary Kay Letourneau. And when she got out, she hooked back up with him, got pregnant again, and had another kid. This time he was like 16 or 17 years old. So they have 2 kids together. She passed away due to cancer, I believe, this week. Sebastian Aether, a Disney star, died at the age of 24 this week. Broadway star Nick Cordero died at the age of 41 due to COVID-19. That was a big blow for Broadway fans. A lot of people giving their condolences like that. And the 2 big deaths this week. First up, Ennio Morricone, a film composer most famous for the the good, the bad, and the ugly theme, and a bunch of other. He did plenty of other film compositions, but that's his most famous one. And Charlie Daniels, the Charlie Daniels Band, died at the age of 83. His big song was "They Went Down to Georgia. I was looking for Soul Steel." So those are the big deaths this week. Halloween is back in this story again. Woo! Halloween. Hershey's released their Halloween treats this week in a press release, which I thought was really, really cool to let us know, hey, look for these at Halloween. They got new candies coming out, including the Reese's Peanut Butter Franken Cup, which is going to be the regular peanut butter cup, but with a green bottom. It's a green cream sort of thing bottom. Vampire Kisses, which are going to be Hershey's Kisses filled with strawberry, red inside jelly stuff, liquid, whatever. That'll be a good thing. Kit Kat Witch's Brew is going to be that same green cream that's on the bottom of the Reese's Peanut Butter, but it's going to be the entire bar of Kit Kat is going to be this green cream. It's going to be their Witch's Brew. And what the hell is that? Oh, and then the Cookies and Cream Fangs. Cookies and Cream is a white chocolate Hershey's bar that has flecks of like Oreo cookies in it, stuff like that. They're really, really good. And these are going to have like fang marks on it. So those are going to be the Halloween candies released by Hershey this year, along with their stuff they released last year, the glow in the dark candy wrappers and stuff like that. G.I. Joe was a TV show cartoon in the 80s. It was also a bunch of toys, and Marvel Comics bought the rights to do comics. One of the most classic ones, written by Larry Hama, is issue 21, which is known as the silent issue, where there is no dialogue at all. It's a battle between Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. And a G.I. Joe fan has made a short stop motion film based on that silent issue. So he probably used his G.I. Joe figures and made, his own short film based on that comic, which I think is great. As I expected, Hamilton's debut on Disney Plus has led to an increase in people buying into the Disney Plus program. So it had huge numbers of people who were buying into Disney Plus. So good on that. This week, Ghostbusters was the #1 movie this week because of the drive-in movies. Last week, Zootopia topped the Avengers in the movie's #1 film. So kind of interesting to see all these films from yesteryear and stuff like that coming back out in these drive-in theaters, stuff like that. Will Scarlett Johansson be passing on the Black Widow baton to Florence Pugh, who is her co-star in the Black Widow film, which we'll be getting in October? Which we should have gotten in May, but that's besides the point. We will find out. A blood-sucking vampire fish spawns in Vermont waters, and they're telling him don't mess with them because they ain't good. And they're going to try to figure out a way, I guess, to get him out of there. It's like the Frankenfish here in Baltimore that we had with a fish that actually could walk on land. The Warner Brothers is going to reboot the Justice League with their own Rebirth movie. I think that's a good idea. Just forget about this whole Snyder Cut thing and, we're bringing back all the old stars to come back and redo new movies. No. You can keep Jason Momoa, you can keep Gal Gadot, but no Affleck, no Ezra Miller, even though he's got that movie with Michael Keaton, hopefully, coming up. Florida teen dies after conspiracy theorist mom takes her to a church COVID party to prove that COVID was a hoax, and then also gave her that asshole's drug that he says helps stop COVID, which actually in turn actually causes death, and this girl died from it. I think the family, even though they're complete morons, they should sue the hell out of that asshole in the White House. They're not going to because they believe in him, but whatever. Speaking of which, the bubonic plague is back in China, though it's not as big of a deal. It sounds like, oh, God, are you kidding me? There's actually a vaccine now for bubonic plague, so it's not that big of a deal. So if you catch it, you're going to be fine. But it just seems kind of, let's just add everything to it. Chris Hemsworth is in the news. He will be playing Hulk Hogan in a biopic, and I couldn't think of a better person to play him. I think that's a great idea. Have firefighters had Bigfoot experiences during fighting of forest fires? There have been a bunch of people who have, and they've told their stories. So firefighters who fight forest fires have seen Bigfoot in the woods trying to escape from the fires as well. Brie Larson started her own YouTube channel, just doing whatever she felt like. And her first episode, she talked about a story. She's a video game player. She told a story about how she forced her boyfriend to leave the house because she was trying to finish Super Mario Galaxy. So Brie Larson's cool, despite what all those a-holes said about her and Captain Marvel, which Captain Marvel is still one of my absolute favorite Marvel movies of all time. Stephen King is back in the news again. His Eye of the Dragon book is getting a TV miniseries. I don't know if it's going to be on Netflix or whatever, but there it is. I'll save those two for last. Grand Canyon visitor falls to her death trying to take a picture. That's happened more often than you think. I read a book about national parks, and there was a whole section about rangers in the Grand Canyon who've had to locate dead bodies who've fallen into the Grand Canyon for various reasons. Jurassic World 3 is back filming, and it was announced that the original trilogy trio of Sam Neill and I forget who it is, and Jeff Goldblum, and I can't think of the woman's name. It's killing me. They are the original trio, have come back and will be more than a cameo. Jeff Goldblum has a cameo in the second Jurassic World movie, but the three of them are coming back for good for the whole film. 440 mile long mega flash lightning bolt shatters the world record. A lightning bolt was 440 miles long. That's like from here to like New York or something like that. Crazy. 20-year-old scuba diver was killed by a shark in Australia this week. This has been announced before, but Florida has more issues they have to deal with as a brain-eating amoeba has been discovered. We've had those issues before, and now they're back again. A family of bears kept stealing a man's honey, so he laid out the honey that he was creating and videotaped them to see, give them a taste test to see which one was the best one that they can use for their thing. Instead of just trying to keep the honey away from the bear, they let the bear eat it and use that to try to determine what is the best honey that he could sell. A canine police officer finds a missing toddler in under 10 minutes. That's amazing. And again, might be showing how animals are evolving. And finally, the two last stories for this week. Part of Lassen Volcano Natural Park was closed after an angry otter bites a visitor. So now we have angry volcano otters. And finally, the final story for today. Russia wants Bulgarians to stop painting Soviet monuments to look like American superheroes. So they've been painting monuments to look like Spider-Man, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, stuff like that. I think that's freaking hilarious, and I wish they would do it more often. That, my friends, is the end of episode 357. I'm just going to start a whole new page over here at 358, and there's still some time. Oh no, am I running out of ink? Oh no, I got to get a new pen. All right, let's use this pencil. So 358. This isn't even working. I'll get a pen later. So 358 will be next week. Buckle up. Hopefully things won't be as bad as they are. Hell. Oh well. Farewell, pen. Have a great week, and we'll see you all later. All right? Take care and be safe.